Hello students, let's start our next part of the chapter electromagnetic waves. In the previous session, we have discussed about the general idea of the displacement current, the need of the displacement current, and the correction of Ampere circuit law, the development of the displacement current, necessity, continuity, all that, and as well as Maxwell's equations too. So the basic idea of electromagnetic waves has been discussed slowly, the fundamentals. So now here in this part we will develop the idea of the electromagnetic waves and how Maxwell has predicted, and production, detection, applications, advantages, all this we'll discuss in this chapter. Okay, let's see now. Maxwell has predicted the existence of electromagnetic waves using that time varying magnetic and electric fields concept, which we have already discussed the basic idea in the previous session. So now let's go in deeper and in detail into this. Okay, so a time varying magnetic field is a source of changing electric field. That's it, right? A time varying magnetic field is a source of changing electric field. And basing on this, Maxwell argued that a time varying electric field is a source of changing magnetic field. Regarding this idea we have discussed already in the previous class. Okay, so what this idea means? This means that the change in either field, which is nothing but either field, electric field or magnetic field, produces the other field. That's it, right? A time varying magnetic field is a source of changing electric field. At the same time, what Maxwell argued, a time varying electric field is a source of changing magnetic field. So which means one produces the other, either of. So later Maxwell showed that these variations in electric and magnetic fields occur in mutual perpendicular directions and have wave like properties. So all this proof was given mathematically, so it's a theoretical proof. Maxwell predicted the waves theoretically, mathematically he proved all this, because the variation of the electromagnetic waves, the variation of the electric field, the sinusoidal functions, which we have already seen in AC, right? So he further went to the deeper in the mathematical way, and thus he proved that the existence of electromagnetic waves. So the interaction, he termed the interaction between these time varying electric and magnetic fields which are producing them one another, he mentioned that to be as the electromagnetic wave, since because the interaction is like behaving like a wave, because the properties are resembling the wave properties. And he thus led to the idea that a wave of electric and magnetic fields, both varying with space and time, should exist. So that interaction will be like that. Okay, so which is nothing but this electric and magnetic fields are like a source to each other. They are producing one another, which means electric field is producing magnetic field and magnetic field is producing electric field. That's it, right? A time varying electric field produces magnetic field, and as well as time varying magnetic field is producing electric field. He named this interaction to be like, as they are having a wave like property, also to be as electromagnetic wave. He also termed it as electromagnetic wave. Or else, in simple, if you want to state in such a simple manner as to be like, an electromagnetic wave is a wave radiated by an accelerated charge and which propagates through space as coupled electric and magnetic fields oscillating perpendicular to each other and to the direction of propagation of the wave. So it is nothing but an accelerated charge. Until now we got the idea of only the stationary charges, moving charges. That's it, right? Earlier we discussed in the first chapter regarding the stationary charges which produce only the electric field, but now later after that electrostatic, we discussed about moving charges which produce both electric field and magnetic field. That's it, right? But now here we are going to discuss about accelerating charges. When the charge will be accelerating, a time variation will exist whenever. That's it, right? And that's what, not a constant, it's a time varying. So that's why the charge is getting accelerated. So the point here we have to understand is only accelerated charges radiates energy in the form of electromagnetic waves, and thus accelerated charges are the sources of electromagnetic wave. Okay, so an oscillating charge produce an oscillating time varying magnetic field. This time varying magnetic field is a source of time varying electric field. Thus now we have two kinds of the fields, oscillating electric and oscillating magnetic fields, which regenerate each other, which means one produces the other, and this two regenerating fields will propagate through the space as a wave, and that wave is nothing but electromagnetic waves. Are we getting the point here? Is that clear, ma? So I am repeating again. So whenever we have a stationary charge always produces an electric field, electrostatic field, which I have already studied, while moving charges produce both electric field and magnetic field, that also we have studied. Now we are speaking about a time varying field, a motion of the charge in the time varying, that's it, right? So which means the charge will be get accelerated. Thus only accelerated charges radiates energy in the form of electromagnetic waves. Thus the accelerated charges are the sources of electromagnetic wave. And the point what we have to understand is, an oscillating charge produce an oscillating time varying magnetic field, and this time varying magnetic field will produce a time varying electric field, and these oscillating electric and magnetic fields regenerate with each other and propagate through the space in the form of a wave, and that's we term it as electromagnetic wave. Suppose if the charge is oscillating harmonically with a frequency nu or f, that produces an electromagnetic wave of same frequency nu or f. Remember, again I am telling you, the entire description or the entire discussion regarding the electromagnetic waves was given by Maxwell theoretically. All these expressions were given by Maxwell theoretically. Okay, so now let's look that theoretical explanation given by the Maxwell, which is nothing but your mathematical representation of. So whenever we have that variation of the terms in the sinusoidal case, can I write down the electric field and magnetic field like this? For a progressive wave, can I write down this equation? E equal to E naught sine kx minus omega t. You are very familiar with this kind of notation, that E equal to E naught sine omega t. You are very familiar with this, or omega t plus phi. But now here I am writing the variation of the wave with the position and the time, while here it will be only with the time and phase. If you remember, omega t plus phi, of course initial phase is 0, means this is what until now we have discussed about. Whenever the position is also involved in the wave distribution, we will write down like this. In waves we can come across this, E equal to E naught sine of omega kx minus omega t, and that's the notation for progressive wave. Okay, whenever the position and time consideration was taken into account. And k is called propagation constant. You can notice here k is called propagation constant of the wave, and that's value is 2 pi by lambda, k equal to 2 pi by lambda. If I substitute that, can I take out 2 pi of x by lambda, and in the place of omega can I write down 2 pi f? So 2 pi I can take out common, it will be f, of course 2 pi nu into t. Okay, nu is frequency, don't forget that. Okay, and look here, I have taken along y axis, so electric field is along y axis. So E naught sine of 2 pi into x by lambda, where frequency can be written as 1 by time period, can I? So minus t by capital T into j cap. While as the electric field is oscillating only about the y axis, you can notice here only about the y axis, the component of this electric field along x axis and as well as z axis will be 0. You can notice here. So the components of the remaining components of the vector, because it is oscillating only about the y axis, we stated that already, right? The oscillation of the charge will be harmonically, so which means it should confine to a particular direction. In simple harmonic motion we have already seen this charge should accelerate and the oscillation should confine to one particular direction, and this particular direction for the electric field is nothing but about this y axis. So I made that, if you notice there. Okay, right now, and we are stating that these two electric and magnetic fields will be perpendicular to each other. Do you remember the velocity selector condition in what we call that cyclotron? We have discussed about that. E equal to bc, we got that condition, E equal to bc. Of course velocity of the light is nothing but v equal to E by b. required velocity can be attained whenever electric field and magnetic field are mutually perpendicular to each other. We have discussed in that magnetics chapter. Do you remember? In the cyclotron topic. So E equal to BC, that's what I am going to discuss here now. Okay, so keep that in mind. So what that states, electric field and magnetic field will be always mutually perpendicular to each other, since because they are mutually regenerating each other, right? So electric field, whenever we have a current carrying wire, magnetic field will be around that and such a way that always tangential, right? We have already noticed that. So here the electric field is actually along y axis. So what are the two remaining possibilities of the wave to be in perpendicular, either along x or along z? So I am considering along z, since because the propagation of these two, this vector, the combination of this two, which is nothing but electric field and magnetic field, which are actually producing the resultant, is along x axis. Hence the only possibility is about z axis. So that's what it is. So it's not necessary to be like this. If I consider along x axis, if I consider along the magnetic field along x axis, propagation of the wave should be along z axis. That's it now, if one is confined to another. So just for the easy diagrammatical representation and for better understanding, I am representing along y axis the electric field and along z axis the magnetic field. And you can notice there the propagation of the wave, which I have mentioned with the v. V is nothing but the direction of propagation of the wave, right? Here that's what. So similarly, magnetic field can be represented as B naught sine of kx minus omega t. The same similar method of approach I am going to here. So B naught sine of 2 pi into x by lambda minus t by t naught into k. And here also along x axis and along y axis, magnetic field is 0. Look here, these E naught and B naught, these terms, they are the maximum values. They are the maximum values. Maximum values of what? Maximum values of electric and magnetic fields respectively. You can also term those values, that electric and magnetic fields, to be like this E naught and B naught to be like the amplitudes, which are nothing but the maximum values, right? Hence can I write down that E naught by B naught is equals to C, and you can notice that this equation, that E equal to 2 pi of this electric field expression and as well as this magnetic field, these two, both these equations are having the same similar kind, which is the variations in electric and magnetic fields are in same phase. That's it, no? That's it, right? 2 pi of x by lambda minus t by t, capital T. Similarly here also 2 pi of x by lambda minus t by capital T. Of course the directions are different. That's okay. And thus both these electric and magnetic fields will attain their maxima and minima at the same instant and at the same place, that is at x. So their t and x variation, right, we have already taken the variation of that position and as well as time. As the phase variation, see, look at the final expressions which you can see here. Let me erase this so that it will be a little clear for you. So if you notice there, the variations whatever we are actually observing here, this equation and as well as this equation which we are actually speaking about, both these equations are looking alike and having the variations in that both electric and magnetic fields are in same phase, which means they attain their maxima and as well as a minimum value at the same instant. That's it, right? There is no variation. What phase refers to, that's it, right? At what instant all the same kind of the particles are at what distance or at what time. So when the variations are in the same kind, what that indicates or what that denotes? Obviously they will attain maxima and minima in the same time or in the same position. So that's what now we are going to look about this. Okay. So if you look here, along the x axis and along y axis and along z axis, look here, the variation of electromagnetic wave. You can notice there, along the y axis I have taken the electric field and along the z axis I have taken the magnetic field. Look at the maxima of that both the values. There you can notice there in that E naught and as well as B naught, which is nothing but the maxima. So both are having the same, they will reach the value at the same time, which means E naught, the time taken by the electric field to reach the E naught will be the same, and as well as the time taken by the B naught to attain the same maximum value is also the same. Are you getting the point here? So now the variation on both electric and magnetic fields occur simultaneously. That's what we are speaking about. So are we clear with this? And of course, as I have already mentioned that I just made the gist of all this particular condition what we are actually speaking about, this electromagnetic wave propagation and all. Are we clear with this? Okay, right. Now let's look about the continuation. This is what. So E by B I can write it as C, right? And as well as E naught by B naught, which is nothing but this is RMS, and as well as this is the maximum values to be C. And if that electromagnetic wave travel through vacuum with speed of light, remember this, electromagnetic waves always travel through vacuum with the speed of light. Of course, later at the in the next chapter we will discuss about that light is nothing but an electromagnetic wave. In optics, in the wave optics chapter, you will understand this. Okay, that light is also nothing but an electromagnetic wave, transverse nature of light. Okay. Okay, and in the earlier chapter we have already discussed that C equal to 1 by square root of mu naught epsilon naught, right? Hence, can I write down like this, mu or epsilon are equal to C naught by C medium? Can I write down? From the same expression I am writing, for a vacuum it is, for a medium it will be mu epsilon square root of. So then what it will be, C naught by C medium. What do you mean by this? Speed of light in vacuum by speed of light in medium. It's nothing but refractive index. It is refractive index. Okay ma. Now if you want the direction of energy flow per unit area per unit second along the direction of wave propagation, since because in the previous you have already seen that, right, electric field and magnetic field are actually oscillating in a mutual perpendicular directions, but the wave is traveling along the x-axis, that we have already seen. So if you want to understand with what rate the energy is actually being transported, first of all, what do you mean by this energy transportation? So whenever we speak about a wave will always carry the energy momenta along with that. That's it, right? The disturbance created in a medium is nothing but a wave, and that disturbance, of course, which is nothing but it carries the energy along with that in that direction. As it is proceeding to forward, we are calling it as progressive wave. Basing on the direction of oscillation, if the direction of oscillation of the particles of the medium and the direction of propagation of the wave are parallel to each other, oscillations and as well as propagation are parallel to each other, we call it as longitudinal wave, and if both are perpendicular we call it as transverse wave. That's it, right? You can notice here the oscillations of the charged particles are along y-axis or along z-axis, either in the case of electric or magnetic, while the propagation of the wave is along x-axis. So in either of the situation, the oscillations or the direction of oscillation and propagation are perpendicular, hence this is a transverse wave. That's it, right? We have already studied this definition, that this propagation and all. Okay, in your lower standards you might have studied about this. So that's what now we are going to discuss here. Okay, right. So for such a situation, whenever we need the energy flow per unit area, as the wave will carry the energy from one particular point to another particular point, because the disturbance has been created at a point and this disturbance will propagate in the medium, and therefore there will be an energy transportation, and that energy transportation can be given by this Poynting vector, which you can notice here. Observe the cursor, here it is, the Poynting vector, and that Poynting vector is nothing but the cross product of E bar and H bar. E bar and H bar, magnetizing field intensity, you might have remembered in the magnetics chapter we have studied about this. Okay, right. Okay ma, right. And how can I write down H? It's nothing but V by mu naught. Of course the unit of the Poynting vector is nothing but watt per meter square, since because it's energy flow per unit area per second, right? So energy per second is nothing but watt, and of course per unit area, so meter square. Okay, right. Let's look about the next term, which is nothing but wave impedance, one of the important definitions for 1 mark. The medium in which the actual wave is traveling will oppose the motion of this wave, which is actually, and this hindrance offered by, or this opposition offered by wave or that particular medium for the wave is called wave impedance. The medium offers opposition to the propagation of the wave. Such a hindrance is called wave impedance, and that is nothing but Z equal to E by H. You can notice here Z equal to E by H. Okay, and can I write down that E equal to BC? and H equal to B by mu for a medium in a random I'm speaking about, neither not in free space. Okay, so B by mu. So can I B cancels out and it will be mu C. And how I can write down C? 1 by square root of mu epsilon. Root mu times cancels out, so square root of mu by epsilon. And how I can write down mu? Square root of mu r by epsilon r into square root of mu naught by epsilon naught. Remember, this is a standard value. Square root of mu naught by epsilon naught, it's a standard value, and this is nothing but the wave impedance for free space. That's it. No, mu r and epsilon r for free space, it doesn't exist. Relative permeability and relative permittivity. Do you remember this? All these terms. So for free space or vacuum, this term will vanish. Square root of mu r by epsilon r. We will be left over with only square root of mu naught by epsilon naught, and that's what I represented here. For free space, Z is nothing but wave impedance is nothing but square root of mu naught by epsilon naught, and that's value is, anyway these two are standard values, right? Mu naught and epsilon naught. If we substitute that, we'll get the value to be 376.6 ohm. That's the wave impedance for the case of free space. Now if we have a conducting medium of conductivity sigma, for in such a case it will be nothing but in the place of it's a mu by epsilon. No? So in the place of epsilon not epsilon permittivity, now we are going to replace that omega by sigma. That's it here. You can notice square root of mu omega by sigma. Sir, what is this omega and what is this sigma? Sigma I have already mentioned, conductivity of the medium. Omega is nothing but angular frequency of incident electromagnetic wave. Angular frequency of incident electromagnetic wave. Of course you already know what is mu, permeability of the medium. So for higher frequencies, ZE is larger, since omega equal to 2 pi f, right? So greater the frequency, greater will be the Z, and electromagnetic wave will be reflected. Greater frequency, no, so greater resistance, and thus good conductors are good reflectors. Good conductors are good reflectors. Understand this condition will be useful in further, and in the wave optics also it will be useful. Good conductors are good reflectors. So in the boundary conditions we will use this. So whenever we have that kind of, okay. So for perfect conductors, sigma will be obviously high. Then what about the Z in that case? It will be obviously low, and you can almost treat that to be as nearly equal to 0. And now for a transparent medium, you can write down the refractive index to be right impedance of free space by impedance of medium. Impedance of free space by impedance of medium. What you will get there? This is the ratio of these two. That's it, these two terms. This one and this one. Obviously, you will be left over with this kind of. So Z naught by Z. Are we clear with this? Okay, ma? Right. Now let's look about most important topic of this entire chapter, energy density. Okay. You can expect 1 mark, 2 mark questions basing on this, and as well as in multiple choice questions also. Energy density in free space. Energy density in free space. So as we have already seen that the energy densities, because they are mutually regenerating each other, right? Electric field and magnetic field are regenerating each other. Thus obviously the energy associated with that electric field and as well as energy associated with that magnetic field also should be taken into account. That's what now we are going to discuss about. And first of all, by the way, what do you mean by this energy density? What do you mean by this energy density? Amount of energy per unit volume. So in that particular, since because the propagation is in free space, right, the wave is, hence we have to speak about the amount of energy which is being transported in that particular unit volume, with what amount of. Hence, as they are regenerating with regenerating each other, can I write down that electrostatic energy is equal to magnetostatic energy? That's it, right? There is no hindrance and all in that case, and that's what for an ideal situation. Whatever the electrostatic energy, and that is what regenerating the magnetic field, and vice versa, without any further loss. Okay. Now, what do you mean by electrostatic energy? Half CV square. Can I write down? Do you remember this? In electrostatics we discussed about this, and that's what, right, we have started about speaking. So UV equal to electrostatic energy equal to half CV square, and capacitance can be replaced with A epsilon naught by D, and V is nothing but ED, E square D square, and that's what half epsilon naught E square. Do you remember this equation? We have already discussed this in your capacitors chapter. Okay, half epsilon naught E square, and I told you there that to remember this, later we have an important results along associated with this. UE equal to half epsilon naught E square. Okay, in the EMI also we have seen this, half epsilon naught E square. Now coming to the magnetic energy, half Li square. Magnetic energy will be stored in the form of magnetic field in the inductor, and that's what. So I have for a solenoid I am considering about here. Later you will understand this. So half Li square, and where the self inductance of self inductance of the solenoid is mu naught n square L. That's what I substituted here, and upon B square by 2 mu naught. Right, now the total energy density can be given as, that's it, right? All these two are. So can I replace this? Look here, understand, half epsilon and how I got, taking this A into D, which is nothing but area into distance is nothing but volume, right? Taking to that side will gives me UE. You understand the notation here. Capital UE is nothing but energy, while small u is nothing but energy density. Hope you understand the notation what I am following here. Are you watching that carefully? So this is small UE and this is capital UE. Hope you got that variation. So now energy density, total energy density is nothing but summation of these two. So that's what I have mentioned here. But for average energy densities, we spoke about energy densities, total energy density, that's okay. But for average energy densities, which means at any time instant of, since because we are speaking about the variation of the wave, as the wave is propagating in all the 3-dimensional space, we are already speaking about that, right? In all the possible waves directions, that is nothing but in a 3-dimensional we are speaking about. So for that we have to discuss in that notation only. So for that case, at any time instant, for that case we have to speak about average energy densities. For that I have to consider the RMS values. RMS means value of that electric or magnetic at any instant of time. That's it, right? So now U equal to half epsilon naught. In the place of E square I am writing ERMS square. Did you notice here? And similarly 1 by 2 mu naught, in the place of B it will be now B RMS square. We already have a relation, right, between the RMS value and the peak value. That's what now I am going to substitute. As ERMS equal to E naught by root 2, similarly BRMS will be B naught by root 2. If I substitute that, 1 by 4 epsilon naught E naught square plus 1 by 4 mu naught B naught square. Now consider, keep this aside, this equation, keep this aside. Now consider the average electrostatic energy density, which is nothing but this 1 by 4 epsilon naught E square I am considering. Look here, I have taken this. Here it is, 1 by 4 epsilon naught E naught square. Okay, as we know that E equal to BC and C equal to 1 by root of mu naught epsilon naught. Can I substitute that values here? So 1 by 4 epsilon naught B naught square C square, since E equal to BC, E naught equal to B naught C, same, nothing more. And in the place of C square I can write down it to be nothing but 1 by mu naught epsilon naught. That's what I substituted. Hence what I got the final answer, observe this carefully, 1 by 4 mu naught B naught square. What do you mean by this 1 by 4 mu naught B naught square? Magnetic field, average magnetic field energy density. What we can infer from this? What we can infer from this? The average electrostatic energy and as well as the average magnetic energy will be same, and thus clearly this proves that they are self-generating. Of course, vice versa we can prove this from magnetic also we can prove the electric. That's it, right? When once we got this, thus in the electromagnetic wave the average energy of the electric field equals the average energy density of magnetic field. Are we clear with this? Okay ma? Right, make a note of this, a very important topic. You can be asked for 2 marks, this particular topic, average energy density in free space. Let's look about the next one, interesting one, intensity of electromagnetic wave. Intensity, what do you mean by intensity? Whenever we speak about a wave, we have to speak about this term, intensity, obviously. The energy crossing per unit area, per unit time in a direction perpendicular to the direction of propagation of wave is called intensity of the wave. So for the propagation of the wave, whatever the direction we are actually speaking about, to that direction in a perpendicular, whatever the energy crossing per unit area per unit time will is nothing but intensity, which you can write it as, see here I have taken a cylinder kind of, which you can notice here. This cylinder represents the energy in that free space. which is nothing but an electromagnetic wave traveling with a velocity c. I am considering a cylinder of area A, cross section C, and look at here, c is the speed of the electromagnetic wave. So in time delta t, the displacement covered by the electromagnetic wave is nothing but c delta t, which is nothing but the length of the cylinder. Okay, now energy stored in this cylinder can be given as U is nothing but energy density into volume. Can I write down this? So U into C delta T into A. That's it, right? Volume of this, length into area of cross section, C delta T into A. Now intensity is nothing but energy by area into time, or you can also call it as energy by time. This is energy by time is power by area. That's what. So U by A into delta T, which I can write it as small u into C. Can I write down? Can I write down this? Right. Now already we got these values, right? So upon substitution we can get this epsilon naught E square RMS C, or half epsilon naught E naught square into C. Okay. Have you noticed this? Energy density, we already got that, right? When we multiply that with speed of light or that speed of electromagnetic wave, we are getting intensity. Remember ma, this expression is useful while solving the problems, half epsilon naught E naught square into C. Okay. Of course, similarly we can prove for the magnetic field also. In that case, it will be 1 by mu naught B square RMS into C, or 1 by 2 mu naught B naught square into C. Remember this. Okay. This is also an important relation which we need while solving the problems. This is also much needed for us, intensity of electromagnetic waves. Okay, right. If I have a point source, what do you mean by point source? From that particular infinitesimal small source, if the energy is being radiated, you can notice there, okay, over a distance r, then for that case it will be like a spherical shells. That's it, no? Having at the center, at the common center of all these spherical shells, we have a point source, and that point source is radiating the energy in all the random possible directions. Okay, thus intensity in that situation can be given as P by 4 pi r square, surface area of the sphere. That's it, no? That's what. Power by area, right? So here the area is nothing but total surface area. So P by 4 pi r square. Are we clear with this? Okay ma? Right. Let's look at the next topic, momentum and radiation pressure. Okay. The best example for this is, let me start with one of the most common thing which you can notice in our day-to-day life, so that we can have a proper understanding regarding the momentum and as well as the radiation pressure. Whenever we stand in sun, or when sun shines on us, on our skin, we can notice that our body will get warmer. Usually in winter we prefer, that's it, right, to be in sun, so that we can feel warm. How you are actually noticing that? Because of the energy is being absorbed by your body. That's it, right? Your skin will get warmer. That's it, right? And because of your sensory organs, you feel the warmth. That's clear and about. So the how your body sensory organ is actually doing all this. So it is your body is actually absorbing some sort of energy. That energy is being. And whenever we speak about that energy, obviously these two will be there, momentum and radiation pressure, right? Okay. Coming to the one more point, this radiation pressure, the most regular kind of comet shape, a comet, whenever we speak about a comet, the most common thing, like it will be having a tail, having a head, like that, right? We speak about comets and all. Most importantly, the tails of the comets will always point away from the sun because of the radiation pressure. Notice that later on, whenever you came across this, the tails of the comets will always point away from the sun, and this is because of the radiation pressure. Okay, right. Now let's understand what is this momentum and as well as the radiation pressure. As the electromagnetic wave travels through the medium, it transports momentum, and thus you can write down this to be as P equal to U by C. Are we clear with this? Energy density by C, of course total energy, whatever we are actually speaking about, to the velocity of light. This is for complete absorption. That means when the electromagnetic wave travels for incidence on a body, and that entire electromagnetic energy has been absorbed by that. Suppose if that body is completely reflecting back, If the electromagnetic wave is being reflected from a body, then in that situation the momentum delivered can be given as 2u by c. The thing is, actually we are speaking about the magnitude. You, in the Newton's laws we have already studied about this. Suppose if this is the body, if it is falling on it, let's say suppose it is momentum having that p, that's fine, okay. Now when it is being reflected back again, this will be the final. So this is initial and this is final. Change in the momentum or that particular momentum delivered can be given as final minus initial, right, with respect to of that. So this is already of this kind and this is of minus, it will be plus. That's it, right? If I speak about this to be that direction, so obviously this will be in opposite direction, but final minus initial, so minus of minus, it will become plus. So 2u by c, double the value. In Newton's laws you have already seen this kind of problems in your 11th standard. Do you remember? So similar kind of, right. Suppose the radiation is falling on a surface. That's it, right? So we are stating that it is exerting a momentum. And what do you mean by the rate of momentum? P by t, dp by dt. Do you remember this? What is you mean by dp by dt? Rate of change of momentum is nothing but force. And if this force is acting per unit area, what we call this force by area is nothing but pressure. And the reason for this momentum transfer and thus force acting per unit area is nothing but radiation pressure, we term it as, and this is what we are going to discuss about now. So when electromagnetic wave falls on a surface, it exerts pressure, and now the total absorption P equal to I by IC for this intensity by speed of light. Now that for the total reflection along the same path, you can write it as 2I by C. Radiation pressure can be given as, okay. And the electric vector in the electromagnetic field is responsible for all the optical effects, and for this reason electric vector is also called as light vector. So we are saying that, right, in the electromagnetic wave, of course, that field where it is actually traveling, and that wave is called electromagnetic wave, and the field is called electromagnetic field. In that field, the electric vector which is oscillating is responsible for all the optical effects, okay, and that that electric vector is called as light vector, we term it as, okay, right. Now let's look into the next topic, history and production of electromagnetic waves. So you can notice there the order of Maxwell, Hertz, J.C. Bose, Marconi. First of all, let's start from the Maxwell. We have just seen that, right, the prediction, how he predicted all that waves and all, the mathematical way of whatever. So he has given completely the theoretical description regarding the electromagnetic waves, the equations and all, as well as later Hertz has followed this theory, and he produced and detected electromagnetic waves experimentally about of considerable wavelength, like 6 meter, about a wavelength of 6 meter. Hertz produced and detected electromagnetic waves. Later J.C. Bose, an Indian scientist, he is basing on his name we got the particles called bosons, which are nothing but the quarks, the elementary, one of the kind of the elementary particles we call bosons, right, and that has been Bose-Einstein statistics, one of the major key scientists in quantum mechanics and statistical mechanics. His condensation theory, Bose-Einstein condensation theory, his efforts in those fields are very remarkable. One of the proud son of the sun, proud son of the India, okay. So J.C. Bose, he was successful in producing electromagnetic waves of wavelength in the range 5 millimeter to 25 millimeter. So he also produced his contribution towards electromagnetic waves is this is what you can say, which is nothing but in the field of electromagnetic waves, J.C. Bose produced the electromagnetic waves of wavelength 5 millimeter to 25 millimeter. Later after this, remember all these have been developed, whether Hertz or J.C. Bose or Marconi, all these have been developed their practical proofs or production, detection, all everything basing on the Maxwell theory only, which was theoretical. From there they have all developed the devices, and later on they developed to the next level. So the fundamental or the foundation for all these developments is nothing but Maxwell. the radio what actually we are actually listening, or the wireless communication what we are actually speaking about, was actually given by Marconi, the first radio Marconi, and that was actually given by the fundamental idea for that was given by Maxwell, propagationally, right. So later Marconi discovered that one of the spark gap terminals, if we connect to that, and of course antennas and all, later in the communication chapter we have, there we can discuss in detail regarding the communication, transportation and all. So using the arrangements, whatever following the theory and all, Marconi established the wireless communication, and thus of course nearly about 50 kilometer he was able to successfully verify this wireless communication. Okay, that's what radio transmission which you are actually speaking about, and how that antenna setup we can make, and how we are actually using earth, and how the waves have been transported over that long range distances. That all we can discuss in our next chapter, that is your last chapter, which is nothing but communication systems. There we can discuss in detail. Now if you speak about the production of the electromagnetic waves, you can see here the basic block diagram for the production of electromagnetic waves. So notice here, these two are metal plates, and this is the ring. CD is the metal ring, whatever we are actually going to use. Okay, this is nothing but this is the detector, and these two are metal plates. This is the detector, while S1 and S2 are the bulbs, and this is the induction coil. Now let's understand how we can produce an electromagnetic wave. Okay, right, and this is what the nothing but the Hertz experiment. We have already seen that, right? Basing on the theory Hertz has developed, and now we are going to discuss about that Hertz experiment which produced the electromagnetic waves, and who identified them, and who supported the theory given by the Maxwell. So you can notice here that there are two metal plates which are nothing but copper or zinc, and there are two metal knobs. You can see here two metal knobs, S1 and S2, and this is nothing but induction coil, primary secondary induction coils, which can produce large amount of voltage. Okay, and these two are metal spheres, S1 S2 are metal knobs. So when large amount of voltage was created, okay, and that creates electromagnetic wave. Remember, this entire combination, this copper plate along with a metal rod or the metal knob, will form an LC combination, capacitor inductor, LC combination. Obviously there will be energy transmission, right? And that's what. Now these electromagnetic waves which are being produced are identified by another ring having metal knobs, again S1 dash, S2 dash, or CD. In the previous figure also we have mentioned. So these are also nothing but the metal knobs which identifies. Okay, right. When the two metal plates which are called condensing plates, when high voltage is applied from induction coils, and between the space S1 and S2, the material medium whatever we are actually speaking about will become conductive, and discharging takes place. Have you ever listened this? Medium becomes conductive, medium becomes ionizes. I think we have discussed this somewhere. Do you remember the corona discharge? At a sharp point, whenever a large amount of voltage is applied, the gases will get ionized. Electrical wind, do you remember? That's what. Accelerated charges, right? That's what, nothing but. So when large amount of voltage is applied, the space between that S1 and S2 becomes conductive, and discharge takes place. Due to the accelerated charges between S1 and S2, electromagnetic waves are originated from S1 and S2. Now due to induced electricity in the detector S1 dash and S2 dash, we have a ring, no? That is what the detector. A spark will be produced. Notice that if the detector, which is nothing but S1 dash, S2 dash, and S1 S2 are perpendicular, no spark is produced, since there is no induction. For the induction process they have to be in the same plane, kind of, right? Mutual induction. So for that, again the kind of associated with that and off. So when they are perpendicular to each other, there is no there is no indication regarding the electromagnetic waves. When the detector is parallel to S1 S2, due to induced current, spark is produced. Since because this proves again that electromagnetic wave is a transverse wave. That's it, right? As the both electric field and magnetic field are perpendicular, the direction of propagation of the wave and the direction of motion of the charged particles in the wave are perpendicular to each other. That's what the reason. If you place them in that in the some other plane, you cannot notice the position or that particular electromagnetic wave. And thus we can conclude from this experiment that electromagnetic waves are transverse in nature. And of course that frequency can be given as 1 by 2 pi root LC. We in the LC oscillations we have already discussed it, right? So that's what I mentioned as a point here, each and every point which I have mentioned, due to the high voltage, how the why the spark will arise, all that explanation I made here. Okay, right. Now let's look back to look at the next topic, electromagnetic spectrum. So we have discussed about the production, detection. Just now we have seen that, right, regarding the ring. Now we are going to speak about those waves which are nothing but those electromagnetic waves. Coming to that, there will be a huge bunch of electromagnetic waves of different frequencies having different wavelengths. But if we want to place them in a proper order, that proper order of arranging the electromagnetic waves is nothing but this electromagnetic spectrum. So the orderly distribution of electromagnetic waves in accordance with their wavelength or frequency into distinct groups or having widely differing properties is called electromagnetic spectrum. So which is nothing but in a proper way of wavelength or with a proper frequency, these waves can be transmitted, of course, or have been arranged, and that arrangement is nothing but electromagnetic spectrum. So the major parts of, even though there are some other, even the current for this current spectrum what I are actually speaking, there are many other parts also has been added to the branches, but the major parts what we are going to discuss about for your level is are gamma rays, X-rays, UV rays, visible light, infrared, microwave and radio waves in the order of increasing wavelength. So from gamma to radio waves, the wavelength is actually increasing. So all these are increasing order of gamma rays, X-rays, UV rays, visible light, infrared, microwaves, radio waves. You are very familiar with this visible light because of that alone, which produces as the sensation of vision, right? So all that VIBGR, violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange and red, those 7 colors which you are actually watching will fall under this visible light. So the color which is the frequencies or the wavelengths beyond that violet are called ultraviolet, and the frequencies or the wavelengths beyond that red are called infrared. So that was the case of. Coming to the one more point, that these electromagnetic waves are not actually like have a specific boundaries. There won't be like from point 1 to point 2 this wave, or point 2 to point 3 this wave, this kind of electromagnetic wave. Such a kind of combination do not exist. They will mix up at the boundaries, but basing on the major properties shown in that region, we are actually confining them. So at the margins they will be like a fused kind of. So it's not that easy to identify or to draw a boundary line for each and every spectrum. So the various regions of the spectrum do not have a sharply bounded defined boundaries, and they overlap. And the classification is based roughly on how the waves are produced and detected, as I told you earlier. So if you want a general classification, which we can notice here. So that's what we have mentioned: gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet, visible, infrared, microwave and radio waves. So in the order of increasing wavelength, which you can see here. And notice the frequency. This is what high frequency, low frequency. That's it, right? As wavelength and frequency V equal to f lambda. So from there you can notice there inverse kind of. Greater the wavelength refers to lesser the frequency. That's what it is. Greater the frequency, lesser the wavelength. Shorter wavelength refers to high frequency, higher energy too. E equal to h nu, know from there. Same Planck's quantum theory is also based on electromagnetic condition, right? Later in the next chapters we'll discuss about all this.
in dual nature of radiation and matter. We have a separate discussion about all this. So regarding wavelengths, frequencies, energies and all, there we can discuss in detail about all this. Shorter wavelength, higher frequency, higher energy. In your 11th standard you might have came across just about all these terms in some other different topics regarding the variation, frequencies, energies and all. So now we have a detailed discussion here. Okay, right. Coming to the various advantages, sources, wavelength range, frequency range of electromagnetic spectrum, or the different parts of the electromagnetic spectrum, you can notice here. Make a note of all this and then go through them. If you want a detailed better explanation, you can go through in your NCERT also, where there you can find all the explanation in much detailed way. So this is all theoretical part, so much no need to, but remember these values you have to remember, no other way for you. Either with wavelength, frequency, you have to just remember all this. Most importantly, these sources, uses are important, so try to follow them. Are we clear with this? Okay, and that was this is the previous first part, this 1 2 3 4 radio wave, microwave, infrared, visible light. Now this is what for the remaining: ultraviolet, X-ray and gamma rays. Okay, thank you.